live. Sorry about that, guys.
We're back again.
Yeah,
Technical difficulties. I don't know. When it comes to the regards of Kevin Adams, I understand. I'm more frustrated with Terry and Kim Pagula personally because I feel like they really just set this guy up for failure from the get-go. I feel like personally they should have made more decisions and helped him and help groom him and be prepared for what they're actually throwing him into. I mean, he had no media relations when he got the job, no GM, no scouting teams, anything. It's almost like saying, hey, I want you to make cookies, but I'm only giving you the chocolate chips. So figure it out. Like that's how I'm looking at this. So,
I know. I get where you're coming from. I'm upset with that too because I feel like if you were gonna make a move like this, you should have brought somebody along with him that had experience in this,
or just somebody completely experienced.
Well, yes, and not hire this guy.
Yes,
because that's the issue that I have right now is that you've seen the inexperience all season long, and it's a huge. It makes him seem incompetent. Not that he's an incompetent person, but because he has no idea what he's doing with the job. It makes the organization look stupid, and it makes the moves that are happening look really bad, and it just makes things worse by not having somebody with experience.
Yeah. I mean, I like I said, I'll just keep saying it. It was a crap season.
I don't hate Kevin Adams.
It was a crap season all around. Like, personally, I thought this team was going to be above 500 with the names on paper. I thought the very first moves, we said it from the get-go, don't make big splashy moves, Kevin. Don't make big splashy moves. The one big splash, he goes out, he gets Taylor Hall, and for some reason it's just not working out in Buffalo. Nobody would have said Kevin Adams is doing a bad job as a GM at the start of the season. And I feel like just getting COVID and players just frustrated. Like, Stahl was frustrated just to be here in the beginning. He said he never even really wanted to be here. He was just traded, and it is what it is. His family even stayed in Minnesota. He didn't even move his family. So he put together a team that definitely looked like it was playoff worthy. And injuries with Allmark and everything else that took place, I just feel like this guy, it was just like the whole entire world just fell on his shoulders. And then all of a sudden you got Jack Eichel's injury, which the thing with him coming out to the reporters – to me is I don't know if there's a HIPAA law. I don't know if there's something like because they did say it's an upper body injury. And usually when there's a hockey injury, they say lower body or upper body. They did say upper body injury. And then people started talking about specifics because there was never a time frame that came out of when Jack would return, which in that way, that might have been when his camp was like, hey, we're looking into this experimental surgery. And then the Sabres were talking to them about possibly doing rehab. Who knows? We don't know about that. But I don't know if HIPAA played a factor in terms of what he could actually say about Jack. But they did come out and say it was an upper body injury and that he wasn't playing anytime soon.
Well, the thing is with the NHL, they have some verbiage in their contract with the Players Association that makes it so you don't have to disclose like the exact injury. Kind of like in the NFL, like if somebody's got turf toe, if somebody's got a broken thumb, if a guy's got a hangnail in the NFL.
Yep.
The NHL is different in that where there's some verbiage that makes it so they can be more vague, like upper body, lower body, left side, right side, like it can be very vague, and a lot of people that saw I was watching the game when Jack Eichel got hurt. He sat there on the bench, and the first thing he did was reach for his neck and start going like this and like grimacing, and got pulled from the game. That was it. You knew exactly what happened. It was a neck injury.
Yeah.
We don't know what happened to his neck because there was no coverage about it at all other than they said it was an upper body injury. We knew it was a neck injury. We saw it on TV. You could say, listen, he hurt his neck in the game. We don't know exactly what happened to his neck, but we'll keep you updated. Mm-hmm. They never kept anybody updated at all throughout the season. That was Kevin Adams. I wouldn't say it was his first mistake because obviously we ruined him for keeping Ralph Kruger for as long as he did. Mm-hmm. That was a big mistake throughout the season. There was just so many mistakes throughout the season that Kevin Adams had due to his inexperience. I don't blame him for his inexperience. You got to learn somehow. For him, it's going to be trial by fire, trial by combat. Everything that he's going to learn, he's going to have to learn the hard way as a GM, and it sucks because us as fans are going to have to deal with the losing and the frustration that comes along with that, him learning. which it sucks being part of that kind of a rebuild and that kind of a fan base because you don't want to have to watch that. You want your team to succeed. You want them to go deep into the playoffs. You want them to win a Stanley Cup. And if they're not even contenders before the season even starts next year, then what are we even paying attention for?
There's no way they're going to be contenders, dude.
Well, then what's the point of even like watching the team again next year? Is this going to be the same thing as it was this year?
I thought we had great hockey the last.
Dude,
the team that they
did.
The team
So
that they
so
put
you
out
so
there
you don't
was,
think that they're going to be contenders next year now?
I think that if they put out a roster similar to what they ended with this year, they won't be contenders, but they're going to play damn good hockey. We saw some damn good hockey at the end of the last 2 months of the season. Don Granato came in here and totally flipped this franchise's mentality around. Like, he was putting 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, saying, go out there and play your game. He let Rasmus Dahlin come into the offensive zone. He was letting Ristolainen play aggressive on the boards. Like, he was letting his team do what they were good at. This was competitive hockey the last 2 months. So that's why I'm sitting here, like, kind of wondering. Because, like, the whole season sucked except for the last 2 months. And then...
Well, the last 2 months weren't great by any means, but they weren't as bad. They just weren't as bad.
We were competing with the Bruins, the Penguins, and, you know, I mentioned that a couple episodes ago where I was like, listen, we were losing to these teams 5-0. Now the games, we didn't let up 5 goals hardly ever the last 2 months. And we were in
I think you're getting the last 2 months confused with, like, the last, like, 2 weeks.
Last 2 weeks.
Yeah. Because the trade deadline was less than 2 months ago. And we
since the trade deadline, I'll say since the trade deadline, this team way better. I wanted to watch the Sabres. When they were down, they battled back. Even if they lost, they went to shootouts. Like, they just never gave up. I loved the hockey we got in Buffalo since the trade deadline, and I'm just kind of confused. Like, so you wanted Kevin Adams just straight up come out and say, yeah, he has a herniated disc in his neck. Like, what exactly? No. How did he mishandle?
He mishandled the Eichel thing, the injury in the first place, because he didn't address it at all. He didn't say, listen, we don't have a timeline on Jack Eichel yet, even like a month after the injury. He waited until the trade deadline day to even say anything, and it was only because he was asked about it. The media was pissed about it because, like, he said, listen, your star player is hurt. All we know is that it's an upper body injury, and we only found that out like 3 days after it happened. But since then, we haven't heard anything. That was like 2 to 2.5 months after the injury that they even brought up the question. How come we're not getting an update? We know when the guy even said, we know when Kyle Okposo's got a scraped knee in the locker room because you guys tell us that. How come when your star player's hurt and we don't know why, like we don't know his exact injury, how come it takes for us to be like, hey, what's going on with this guy? This guy should be at the top of your priority list if he's your captain. He's your star player. He's the face of the organization. How come we're not hearing anything about this? What's going on?
I guess that's where we differ because I don't really care about that.
Yeah, but that's a mishandled situation.
In my opinion, I don't think so.
It is because he's updating you about players that nobody really gives a shit about all the time. Mm-hmm. Like, you know when Jeff Skinner's out of the lineup because he doesn't want to, or he isn't playing because he got scratched by Kruger. But then when Eichel's hurt, you don't know anything about what's going on until somebody says, hey, what's going on? And he's like, he just looked confused and was like, well, and they called him out on it. The media, they said, listen, you need to be giving us injury updates as you know what's going on. He's like, well, we've been talking to Jack and trying to figure out where he's at. And they, like, all very vague answers. It makes you feel like he's kind of full of shit when he says, I've talked to Jack every day.
If the NHL doesn't require him to say anything, we can't demand anything.
Matter.
Well, no,
that's the thing. I think you're batting him down when it's just the media being a little too needy and a little too demanding, because he doesn't. If he's following NHL rules, he doesn't owe them anything.
Well,
it's an issue widespread with media in general that we think we have everything owed to us, when in reality that's not how that works.
See,
if he's following NHL rules, I don't see an issue with it personally.
My biggest issue with it is that he just seemed caught off guard and had no update to what was going on when it's the face of your franchise is injured.
Well,
I guess that's my biggest thing. It just seems like
I think you're nitpicking at this point, because you're making it sound like every GM's been perfect otherwise.
No, I've talked about this. I talked about this when it happened at the trade deadline. So I was upset when it happened. This isn't new news.
And you were nitpicking then. That's what I'm saying. I think at this point
I was nitpicking the trade. I was nitpicking the whole trade deadline as a whole because I thought it was handled horribly.
I don't know. I don't really care if the player's injured. I don't really.
Right, but I like to know. Okay, is there a timeline? Like, what's the update? What's the situation?
But if they don't owe you that,
said that they were thinking like 1 to 2 months at first, and then
they were saying that he was going to come back with like 2 weeks left
in the season,
and that was just out of what Jack Eichel was saying.
And then they were like, "Well, we're not making the playoffs, so there's no point."
Yeah, And now he doesn't even know if he's going to be healthy for next season.
He'll be fine.
They don't know that. He doesn't. Jack Eichel doesn't think he's going to be. That was part of his press conference too.
But see, that's where Kevin Adams was trying to say to people, the reason why we weren't going with the surgery is because we know that we can restructure that herniated disc this way and have him ready by this time. They have statistical proof.
I understand that,
but that's where Jack Eichel, like, after the,
it's just not his way, and he's used to having his way, and they fired GMs for Jack Eichel, and he's just used to being able to get whatever he wants. And Kevin Adams is standing up to him saying no, and Greg, I understand that I'm nitpicking, and I understand that I'm saying that there were a lot of things that didn't go right. I see that there is some growth from this guy as a GM. I will admit that, but I just don't know if the inexperience is something that Sabres fans should have to live with. I guess that I'm upset for other Sabres fans that have to watch these games and watch this team do horribly.
Mm-hmm.
After 10 years of doing horrible and just being part of the same shit, and then on top of that, you got this guy that just doesn't seem like he knows what he's doing, and nobody there to help him. And then he's got all these obstacles now that are in front of him, and I hope he gets through it, and I hope he can turn this around. I really do, because that's what I want for this team. I want them to be good. I want the organization to be taken seriously again. But I have a hard time taking that organization seriously when the guy just seems like he doesn't know what he's doing. He lost the Taylor Hall trade.
Taylor Hall, you had to trade.
Yeah, no, I understand. I understand, but he was not compensated for it the way that he should have been.
But you also said that they took advantage of us.
They did. They took advantage.
They knew that Taylor Hall didn't want to be here,
right.
And they knew that we had to trade him.
And yes, and I understand that, but you should still get compensated fairly for what you have. Don't let them take advantage of you.
But it's a business.
In theory,
yes, but don't let them take advantage. This is the
you also said we got fleeced on the O'Reilly trade.
We did.
So why are you like? It's I think you're being way too hard on this guy.
I don't know.
I think you're being way too hard on this guy.
No, I'm just seeing a lot of the inexperience. The whole he definitely held on to Ralph Kruger longer than he should have, and it didn't address the media about that until the 11th loss in a row. And it's just there's things that you're starting to see over time that are piling up in the inexperience column, and it sucks to see. And you have to admit it does. It sucks to see it.
I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm on the totally other side of the fence, which is okay. I like that we're actually different on this, because I've been a fan of Kevin Adams and how this team has performed since the trade deadline.
But what about before? I'm talking about the whole season as a whole.
Yeah, and like I said, I thought the team that he put on paper to start the season, nobody in the league was complaining. Every Sabres fan was ecstatic that we got Taylor Hall. We all thought that was a great move. And then circumstances happen, and they get COVID, and the team unity, they're all sleeping in separate rooms. There's no way to unify the team. And then you go and get COVID, and you're a month behind in production in terms of on ice time with your team. Like, he got screwed. Kevin Adams got screwed this year. He literally put together a team with 8 first-round picks on it that have been productive everywhere else they go, and then they all come here. They have a very short, mini camp, I should say, and then they go and get COVID. Like, they were literally a month behind in on ice production.
Okay.
For the whole NHL.
Okay.
Like, that's substantial.
Okay.
When your season is shortened, and then you get Ralph Kruger's issue, where you're still dealing with people on the COVID list. You're still dealing with injuries happening. And then Ralph Kruger just, for some reason, can't help this team win or throw a stone that's outside. But, like, maybe there was COVID regulations where they had to wait 2 weeks to even get a coach in there to even be able to coach, to go through COVID screenings. Like, we don't know any of that.
Well, Don Granato was already in-house. He was the interim head coach.
But they still had, if you remember, they still had to wait for Don Granato and the 2 assistants to pass the COVID screening to even begin their first game.
No, they were hired right away and able to come in. The problem was they had to drive from Rochester to Buffalo, or they were out of town on a road trip and had to drive back to Buffalo to coach.
From what I remember, they went through a COVID screen.
No, they each had gotten COVID at one point during the season.
Gotcha.
But they were on a road trip when they hired him. They each had, all of the coaches had to leave the team from Rochester, wherever they were playing. They had to leave and go coach the Sabres.
Okay.
That night.
Well,
and that was actually because Kevin Adams took over and coached a game because of that. Because of that reason, because he couldn't get them there in time to do it.
The whole Ralph Kruger thing, I mean, we said after 11 losses, they should have fired him. I agree that they kept him for too long. But at the same time, he has great communication with his team, and all the players were telling him that they wanted Ralph Kruger.
Right.
They all said that they love Ralph. Ralph is a great coach, like Jack Eichel and Taylor Hall. And then when he gets fired, everybody's like, it wasn't Ralph's fault. It was our fault. Like, Ristolainen straight up said it in an interview.
And I agree, but we've also said that firing Ralph Kruger, both of us have agreed, firing Ralph Kruger was 100% the right move. Don Granato turned the team around, has done great things. And my thing is just seeing all the little instances of inexperience piling up throughout this year has made this year a dumpster fire. And it sucks. And I hope that he can turn it around. And like Greg said, he's learning. He has seen it. But I'm going to nitpick the things that I see because I don't think that those are things that an NHL GM should do, or what's the word I'm looking for? I don't think that those are things that an NHL GM can fall short on and be like, okay, like, yeah, you got screwed on that trade, or like, yes, there are trades that definitely are really bad and really good. Not every trade's going to be the best trade in the world. Like the Taylor Hall trade, we 100% lost that trade.
I don't think he had a
hold on.
say
But
in what happened.
But let me. I don't. Who?
Kevin Adams, really.
He's the one that set up the trade.
I've been saying since day one that if Taylor Hall comes to you with a short list of teams that he can control where he goes,
right,
and he only says I want to go to the Bruins, and then takes that to Kevin Adams and says, hey, I'm only playing for the Bruins if you trade me. Okay. Well, you're not signing Taylor Hall at the end of the year. He's definitely not staying after this year. So you have to call the Bruins. And then when you call the Bruins and you say, hey, we want to deal you Taylor Hall. He's worth $9 million this year or $8 million, whatever it was. And that team has to fight cap space plus take on a Taylor Hall, knowing that you have to trade Taylor Hall. You have to trade him.
Right, I understand that. This is all conversations that we've already had.
And that's why I'm saying I don't think we lost.
I'm saying we lost the trade now based on production. Taylor Hall has been. You even said it a little bit ago. Taylor Hall has been tearing it up for Boston. We lost the trade. This kid Bjork, he only scored like 3 goals through the rest of the season or 4. Taylor Hall has been lighting it up. Yes, for right now, we are losing that trade.
The thing Alex is saying is, if you just look at it,
I fully understand what he's saying.
If you understand what he's saying, then why are you? Never mind.
Because I'm trying to explain to him that
I understand what you're saying.
No, I'm trying to explain to you that Kevin Adams has the inexperience. He's been taken advantage of in trades. He's not handled things well with Jack Eichel at times. He didn't handle things well with Ralph Kruger. There are things that we've seen throughout this year, and I just hope that it's done. I hope that he's learned as much as he can learn throughout this season, and it's going to start looking upward. And yes, Greg brought up a great point that he handled his press conference after Jack Eichel's bombshell of being upset came out. He handled it very well, and yes, that's something that's on the upward trend. That's great. That's awesome. But I don't want to be stuck in mediocrity for forever as a Sabres fan, and I'm nervous that this guy's inexperience is going to keep holding us back.
All right. Well, let us know what you guys think. Is Kevin Adams doing an okay job for the situation he's in? Is there things that you think he should have done differently? let us know. We want to get you guys your comments and your thoughts in on this conversation because clearly, obviously, we're not going to agree on everything. We don't actually agree on everything all the time, which is what I like the most about the podcast because it keeps the conversation interesting, in my opinion.
I just don't explain things well. Sometimes.
So all you got to do is go on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, anywhere you listen to your podcast. Leave a comment, like, share, follow, tell your friends.
And YouTube.
Let's just broaden up this family, man. We love the bingers here on the Buffalo Binge. Graham, why don't you tell them about the merch one more time, where they can find it, and then Greg, just take over right after that.
So, yeah, guys, in case you weren't here at the beginning of the episode, we have new merchandise out. It's on Twitch, through our store on Twitch. There is a link for it on our Facebook page. It's actually in the first podcast that we did today. It's on that video. We were mid-podcast here and it cut out, so we had to start a new one. The link is in the comments of the last one. Make sure you guys click that. Also, guys, make sure you start directing your way towards Twitch if you're on there. Start following there. Make sure you guys are hitting the subscribe button on YouTube if you catch us on YouTube. Sharing the podcast on Facebook, like I said. Make sure leaving likes on everything, comment on everything. Make sure you guys are commenting on polls on Twitter for us, too, because we're going to have a Twitter poll coming out later this week about logos and such, because we have a bunch of logo ideas, and we want to know what you guys think the best one is going to be.
Absolutely.
And
definitely want your opinion on that.
Not to mention polls of what we're going to be talking about on next week's episode. We're going to have a bunch of those up this week. Make sure you're following our Instagram, too. And I just want to say thank you guys for putting up with me and when I'm difficult and coming here and enjoying the podcast and being part of the show, because it's awesome when we get to talk to you guys and bounce ideas off of you, because it brings good conversation out of the two of us.
Yeah. Greg, you got any lasting thoughts, comments, concerns?
I appreciate you guys hopping on and getting this done today. I know weekends can be busy. I appreciate everybody coming in and listening. I've seen quite a few people pop in and out for parts of the episode. Sorry about the technical difficulties. I had some choice words about Spectrum that are not air-friendly. But hopefully we can get that improved for you guys next week. And then also, like Graham was saying, go and hit up the merch store. I'll make posts on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and I think I'm forgetting another one. Anywhere you can follow the Buffalo Binge, I will make a post directing you right to the shop. Take a look, see what you like. We would love your guys' input on it, even if you can't grab anything today. But we appreciate all the bingers who come in and tune in, and we wouldn't be here without you guys.
Heck yeah. So that's going to do it for us here on the Binge today. Enjoy your work week. We'll see you back here again next Sunday. And as always,
Binge on.